Hey, everybody, welcome inside another exciting episode of the Radio Tech Guys podcast. This is a podcast that is about all of the things that drive the radio industry, all of the tech things that drive the radio industry. My name is Chris Moran. Our co host this evening and all evenings of the podcast is Alex Linger. Hello, Alex.
Hello, everyone.
We would love to we would love to hear from you. Feel free anytime.
You just heard from me.
Well, not you.
Oh.
We'd love to hear from them, and feel free to contact us anytime at our email address, which is ask@theradiotechguys.com. You may also do other things.
Yep, that is factual, Chris. All right, let's jump right into it.
Why don't you tell us what those other things are, Alex?
So, as always, you can find us on the Twitter at Radio Tech Guys. You can also find us on Facebook by searching for The Radio Tech Guys or going to facebook.com/The Radio Tech Guys. And you can find us on the YouTube by searching for The Radio Tech Guys.
You know, if we're really ambitious, by the time this podcast airs, we will have new video content out there of a wild procedure related to ultrasonically viewing tower anchor rods, which
the timeline works out there, doesn't it?
Yeah, if this can possibly happen in that time frame, which is one of the main things that's going on with us currently. But I'll ask you first, Alex, what's going on?
Oh boy, what's going on? Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing, I don't think.
Well, I know that we're in the midst still of this tower project, and we have some things actually scheduled now, which is pretty exciting. Like we're going to.
Are you talking about work stuff?
Well, no, just it can be.
Lots of work stuff.
Yeah, it can be. stuff. Anyway, yeah, we're going to be doing a really cool ultrasound inspection of some guy anchor rods coming up that we're going to document thoroughly.
That's pretty cool. I am anxious to see how that works and if it works.
I hope it works. We're kind of banking on it working.
It's it's a lot cheaper than physically inspecting them.
I had to call ERI today and plead with our friend Carl Davis to please store in a warehouse our newly completed rototiller 6-bay antenna because it's ready to ship and we have nowhere to put it.
There's no room at the inn.
So that's kind of exciting to have the antenna, finished up and getting ready to come in. That'll be huge.
So I heard your side of that phone call today in the office, and I chuckled a little bit because all I heard you say was, "That's extremely optimistic." I'm guessing they asked a timeline.
Yeah, she said, the lady I was talking to at ERI said, just a general idea, are you thinking, maybe the end of this month? And all I could think to say that was appropriate was, that's extremely optimistic because it's not going to be the month of February when that antenna can ship, or March,
or likely April.
I mean, it's not going to be that. So on today's episode, we're going to do pretty much an entire episode on streaming media. Not so much the, I guess kind of the nuts and bolts, but not really the intricacies of audio codecs and that type of stream thing, but more like how we do it, like on a bigger picture level, right?
Yes. That's the plan.
So there's like a handful of streaming things that we have to deal with in our roles. We have the normal stuff that most radio stations, music and talk stations deal with, which is like the online streaming of your terrestrial radio station. So we have that component. Ours goes beyond like streaming, just like on our websites and whatnot. We're also part of the iHeart. Our company is not owned by iHeartRadio, but our stations exist on the iHeart platform as well. So we have to provide a specific type of stream for the iHeart platform. And we're also doing some data stuff, which I guess it's not streaming like we think of it traditionally, because we're not actually streaming the audio to the next radio platform, but we are providing data services at the same time to the next radio app platform. And that's all just around the station side, which we'll get into.
Yep.
Beyond that, we own and operate a satellite news and sports network with 60 plus affiliates, and we also operate various streaming platforms there, audio and video, including our own Flash media server, right, in a data center somewhere in Pittsburgh, maybe, or somewhere.
I believe it is currently in Pittsburgh. It moves. I don't know why it moves.
Yeah, why
periodically it moves around.
Sightseeing,
sure,
seeing new areas of the country. But yeah, so we do that for audio for several of our long form talk shows that run daily. But we also have some video streams on that Flash Media server as well, for some of these talk shows that stream from our studios. And then I guess beyond that, streaming live sporting events, HD video coverage of live sporting events.
Yeah, and the audio for that matter, which is done separately. So it's, yeah, we do a lot of streaming.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So okay, before we talk about the nuts and bolts, is it hard for stations? I mean, at this point in history, I guess you have to be online. But is it hard for stations to adopt the mentality that to be relevant, your station has to be on the internet? You know, you spent your entire existence working so hard to be a, terrestrial RF radio station. Is it hard? And I'm asking this question, I guess it's kind of a rhetorical question, but is it hard to say, okay, that's no longer the only means? And in some cases, that's not even the main way that people hear us anymore. Is that hard?
I imagine for some it is. I think that I think there's a couple things about that. I mean,
it's a mentality shift. You have to think differently about your product, right?
Yeah, I think you have to shift from being thinking of yourselves as a radio company to thinking of yourselves as a media company. We kind of struggled with that when we had the internal debate. Do you remember last year, 2 years ago, I guess we had the big struggle between various parties in our organization between like, we got to insert ads, we got to replace ads on the stream. Don't air the terrestrial ads, replace them with our own so we can monetize that. And then the other side says, let's just monetize. Let's get to the point where we're monetizing all the inventory we have over here already. And I jumped in the middle of it. And my thought always was that, like, I thought we needed to think more of our stations as like holistically as the product. And I think the commercials and the stuff that runs in there as part of your radio station. So I think of it as like one product, no matter how it's delivered. Like, people can listen to it on the Next Radio app, which is just an FM tuner, but it's it's still a different experience. Or you can listen to it on the radio, or you can listen to it in HD in our cases, or you can stream it, or you can listen to it on the iHeart streaming platform or tune in or whatever. I think it should be the same radio station no matter how you consume it. But I think that is probably hard for some people, and I think it's hard in the same way that it's going to be hard when people finally wrap their heads around the fact that AM is dead.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thought shift. Yeah.
We're not saying that the programming that you create, the talk and news and sports programming that you create on AM stations is dead. Yep. We're saying the technological medium in which it is delivered is officially dead. Yeah. And is going away. So
I mean, there might even become a time where live content is no longer a thing. I mean, look at TV, for example. How much live TV do we watch anymore?
Yeah, it's
very little. Very little. And again, the product hasn't changed. It's the same show that you used to be watching live. It's just how you're consuming it and how it's being delivered to you.
I am honestly thankful to be in the radio industry currently as opposed to the television industry, because I think they have it a lot harder. I agree. We're seeing stuff around here. I mean, there's distribution problems, but beyond that, like the content creation problems that especially these network, major TV broadcast TV networks and their affiliates have, I think is a problem for them. I actually see it going the other way. I think I think local TV is going to have to produce more of their own content and local content, like, because it's not about the shows anymore. I mean, it is. There's still some good network shows that air on your local broadcast affiliates, but there's also a lot of really good stuff coming from other places now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Everybody's a content creator now, and so it's
Not
not
everybody should be.
That's very
but
true.
Everybody is.
Not everybody should be a podcaster.
Well, we make that very clear every week.
We might fall into that category, but yeah. So I think people feel that probably about streaming, but it's a necessity. The other problem with it is they've made it virtually impossible to afford to stream as a music station with the royalties. Now I'll just say, as a general principle, especially of late, I like paying artists for their work, and a lot of that I think stems from the little side business that we run with video production, and that's like, I like to get paid for my stuff, and so I think that other artists should get paid for their stuff too. So I am not opposed. I believe that the artist should be paid for their thing. I think the rates that they're charging for streaming are prohibiting some people from doing it, some of the smaller operators from doing it, and I think they're outrageous. But you got to pay for that stuff, and you got to pay for the bandwidth. You got to pay a streaming company to support your platform, and so there's expenses that go with it that people for years haven't budgeted in for their cost of doing business for traditional stations. So there's that side of it too. But the way people are consuming media today, that's a long way to get back to your original question, which is, like, I do think you have to be doing it, and I do think people will resist it, and it's a little different, but I think you have to.
Yeah. 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 I mean, like I said, to be relevant, to be taken seriously, I think it's something that has to be done. Enough about that. Let's talk about how we do it. Now that you're okay with it, how do you do it? So, I'll start off here, and then we can kind of kick this back and forth. But so we subscribe to a platform to handle the web stream for our radio stations. We've been through a few companies over the years. In fact, we were most recently with Abacast, who was then acquired by Wide Orbit, and we were perfectly happy with that because we also use Wide Orbit for our radio automation system. We also use Wide Orbit for our traffic system. So, the assumption would be made that everything just sort of fits together very nicely. And really, in most cases, it does. But we subscribe to their platform, and for us, for the technical folks, it really is very simple. In fact, I think I'd be willing to say that the Wide Orbit platform for us has been even more hands-off than the other systems we've used.
Yeah. I mean, for us, it basically is like, get a Windows computer up with some form of audio reaching it, and then install our Wide Orbit's LogMeIn platform, and then they do the rest.
And we might not even look at the machine again for months. I mean, it's
until the power supply dies, when somebody comes in and says, our stream is,
the machine's a lot, and I don't know why. But yeah, I mean, they don't even have crazy requirements for the machines themselves. In most cases, we're using, 7-year-old machines, if not older. And like Chris said, we have power supplies die, we have hard drives fail, and in most cases, we can get that replaced and fixed very easily. But again, it's fairly hands off for us. Like I said, we get them on the computer, and they sort of take care of the rest. The nice thing about subscribing to their platform and not having to piecemeal it together ourselves, we send the audio to them, or they pull it from us, however you look at it. And then we don't have to deal with iHeart, like you mentioned. We don't have to deal with TuneIn. All of that just sort of comes from Wide Orbit. They distribute the correct format audio to those services. So that's a lot easier on us and our infrastructure. We don't have to push out multiple renditions of the audio. We send Wide Orbit one stream, and they do the rest. And that is very nice. You disagree?
I think we are sending multiple streams from our encoders.
Do we?
I think so. I think so. Well, I don't know that multiple bit rates for like web streams do, but I think iHeart's goes separate. But I can't be for sure. Again, I guess because we're not very hands on because Wide
No,
Orbit
we're
just does
really
everything.
not.
So I don't know for sure. But it is
I
pretty.
know we used to do that. We used to have to transcode with whoever we were with before. I've already forgotten their name.
It wasn't Abacast because that's who it currently is.
No.
Oh, Liquid Compass.
Liquid Compass.
Yeah, Liquid
That's it.
Compass.
I remember them.
God love their souls.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if currently, maybe we do. But either way, okay, so maybe we do push out multiple bit rates. However, we don't have to push out a particular coded audio for Wide Orbit, for iHeart, for TuneIn, and they all have different requirements. So that's nice.
Yeah, it's nice. The automatic marrying of the data services, the now playing, the artist and title information, the other stuff. It translates to all of the streaming platforms that our stuff lives on, which is really cool.
Now, we have had to laugh a few times, and full disclosure, Wide Orbit just acquired Abacast within the last year. Has it been
a couple years?
Has it been a couple years now?
Yeah.
Still relatively young, and we've had to laugh a few times when the streaming side of Wide Orbit has had trouble getting data from the radio automation side, and they'll say, well, you need to call your automation provider, and we're like, well, it's you. So there's still a little bit of that, not the right hand, not quite sure what the left hand's doing, but
yeah, you need to call yourself.
Yeah, walk down the hall and ask them, but no. But truly, it's a fairly robust service. I don't think we've had too much trouble with it. Anytime we have had trouble, 99% of the time it's something with our machine that we have to take care of.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's terrestrial streaming for us pretty much. Like we mentioned, there are some other little caveats that aren't streaming per se that go with our terrestrial radio stations. We also are on the Next Radio platform, which I personally am a gigantic believer in the future of that platform. I really, really like the interactivity. We need to talk to them still. We've been talking about having them on.
We talked about them on our first episode.
They were the very first thing we talked about doing. Anyway, the interactivity and the way it works, the app is on your smartphone, your Android device for now, hopefully iDevices soon. The FM tuner is listening to your station through FM, but it's using your data and your GPS and your other things to send for interactivity. You can interact with the radio station in various ways. There's contest opportunities, communication with the DJs, integration with your favorite way to purchase music that you like, and really enhanced advertising opportunities for clients of the radio stations to deliver messages in a different way, and for the listener to respond to those ads in kind of different ways. So I think the Next Radio thing is very cool. We don't have to do much for that. We run a little middleware client depending on the station. Next Radio provides a middleware client that takes the now playing data from your automation system and spits it out to themselves. Or for more advanced stations that are doing high definition or HDFM with artist experience, there's we use a piece of software called I'm drawing a blank on it, Alex. It's the crazy one that we run on in the Colo.
The Arctic Palm software.
Arctic Palm, CSRDS from Arctic Palm, which parses all of the now playing data, adds some really cool features, and then spits it out to the different things. So that's terrestrial audio streaming in a nutshell. Now, what about the other stuff that we do, the network audio things? That's a little bit more complicated, and we're a lot more hands-on with that, certainly.
Yes. Yeah, we are. So like Chris said, we operate a satellite news and sports network, and since we create original content, we have original shows on there, we want to make those available. And in some cases, there are sporting events that we might not even put on broadcast radio, that are online only. So we have a very serious web presence with the news network. To do that, we've set up several servers actually, with instances of Flash Media Encoder. And thank God we are an audio over IP facility. Thanks to Axia Livewire, we can very quickly and easily route audio to those streamers, and have really any satellite source, or, well, not satellite source, but we could have any remote gear from that game site or studio or whatever the case may be into that streamer very quickly. We also did something I think interesting this past season. We had a need to stream more games than we usually did simultaneously. So we needed more servers, we needed more streamers. We're basically out of physical hardware, and this will make IT people crazy, but we did the typical thing that happens where you go, okay, well, what server isn't doing a lot? Okay, put Flash Media Encoder on there. So we did a lot of that, but we actually got to the point where all of the logical servers that could, dual purpose themselves and do media encoding were taken at this point. So we we did something interesting, and we spun up some virtual machines. We already had a virtual, VMware infrastructure, so we spun up 2 machines that were just going to do audio encoding. We talked to them over Axia Livewire. We got audio to them via the audio, the
IP audio driver.
IP audio driver. Thank you. IP was the word I forgot there. So they work just like a physical machine, and that's how it should work, obviously. But we have 2 independent streamers taking network audio over IP network audio, and acting as streamers, and that was really cool for us.
I think the coolest part is that there's one Ethernet connection to that computer from the Livewire network, but in theory, if we could spin up 10 machines on that one box, we could use that one physical Livewire network connection, and give it a different IP address on each one of the 10 virtual boxes, and have 10 different audio streams coming into that one server on that one piece of Cat 5e or 6 cable, and stream 10 different things out of that one box.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty cool.
I mean, really, if anybody's familiar, Telos actually has a product. What is it called? The ZipStream, is that what they're calling it?
Their streaming box.
Yeah. It's kind of that principle. It's just a self-contained unit that can do multiple streams, with Livewire audio coming into it. It's really the exact same principle, but we're just using physical Windows machines to do the work. So,
are there a bunch of different flavors here of the ZipStream?
There are.
Yeah, we've touched on this briefly before, I think.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit when we talked about remote audio and codecs and whatnot, which it really is kind of a different thing. This is literally just a machine that lets you take, I don't remember how many, up to 4, or is it more? I don't know. Individual streams, and you can send them to different places. All kinds of different parameters, but
wow, there's a bunch of them. Some of these are software based, though, aren't they? Okay, so ZipStream X2, 9X2, R1, R2, AXE, and FXE. I feel like those are the processors, right? Yeah. AXE is what we use to process our stations audio for streaming, and it looks like. Sorry, I've lost it. What's FXE? I should know that. Oh, okay. It says combines Omnia audio processing with the MP3 and AAC codecs for high quality processing for podcasting or file based streaming and coding. Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, that's cool, and that's another way to do it. Basically, it's a way to do what I call our anchor streams, our actual radio station streams. It's another way to do that without having physical Windows machines like we're doing. And we're doing that basically because we already had them. I think if those finally all bite the dust, then a physical appliance like this would be a better option for a lot of reasons. Oh, awkward silence. I hate when that happens.
Well, no, I was just thinking. Okay, so that's that's pretty much, so that's our normal scheduled and even our unscheduled events because they're routable and we can get things to them very quickly. If we need to stream a playoff game or something, we have the ability to route to those very quickly.
Yeah, and
Flash,
we should even mention that we have to change the route to those, the audio route to those servers very frequently. This past football season, we had to basically change the audio stream every week depending on where the team was or what teams we were going to have on the web that week. And that took a little bit of coordination between our web guys and the us IT folk and whatnot to make those changes. But thanks to Livewire, it was very easy to do.
Flash Media Encoder is good for what we do. Flash Media Server is not incredibly difficult for your web people to set up and maintain. If you have a box that can, if you're not talking about, and really if you're not talking about hundreds of streams, you'd have to do the math on the bit rates that you would be streaming at and how much bandwidth you would need to support and if you could do it or not. But you could run a small Flash server for a small number of clients at a low bit rate.
That's the hardest part of streaming, is not necessarily knowing what kind of reception it's gonna. No, reception's the wrong word, but what kind of how many people are going to listen. You don't necessarily know, and that number is very important because of your bandwidth and what you can deliver to them. So that's difficult. That's why we don't host our streams in house. We send them to we send them to a server that lives in a data center at our ISP. And then it's, we have to worry about how robust that box is. Can it handle that many client connections? But other than that, we don't have to worry about the bandwidth of it.
Right. And that works well for that. So that's the network side of how we do that. The other part is the video component, which is relatively new to us, not crazy new. I mean, we've been doing video streaming for, wow, it's been, 5 or 6 or 7 years now.
Yeah, at least.
And it's evolved like everything else that you do in life. I mean, you learn lessons and you do things. And so we've done streaming for video various number of ways. Some of our talk shows, actually all of them that we produce regularly, are using NewTek TriCaster switching appliances. Many of those have built-in encoding and streaming capability for Flash Media and various others. I mean, a whole laundry list really of ways you can stream, but we've been able to use those connected to our Flash Media server and stream video of our talk shows, program video of our talk shows that way.
Yep.
We've also had great success, right, with a piece of software outboard called Wirecast.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Yeah, so we kind of stumbled upon Wirecast, actually, didn't we? It was one year at the high school basketball tournaments. Why? What happened? Did we have a meltdown with something? I don't remember. But we found this software called Wirecast that is really, it does a lot. I mean, it's basically a software-based switcher and encoder and playout system. It's very cool. It can take multiple video inputs, as long as you can get them into your computer, which can be difficult, but it can take multiple inputs, and it can take, recorded files like commercials or opens and closes and that kind of stuff. And you can physically cut between the cameras or the media files or what have you, with some other limited things. I think you can even do like some lower thirds and pretty cool stuff like that. But then it also, probably one of its biggest advantages is its encoding software, and it can talk to just about any flavor of server available. We typically, when we do big sporting events that we know are going to draw a lot of viewership, we use a service called Wowza. We have two different types of that. We either have Wowza Cloud, which is hosted at Wowza. They actually provide the server, and we deliver them a high quality stream. Typically, we push around 4 megabits per second to them, and then they handle all the transcoding services, and that is the key. That is what takes all the bandwidth power, or I'm sorry, all the processing power and all the bandwidth. Because, and this is extremely important for your viewers, excuse me, because not everybody's watching on the same connection or even on the same device. If you're sitting at home watching where you have okay bandwidth, you'll probably watch the HD version of that stream. Very high quality, very nice. But if you're on your cell phone on the 4G network or on the LTE network, you're going to want a lower bandwidth stream for obvious reasons. And those are separate streams that are coming out of that server. So finding a service that can do that for you is critical. Now, that's not free, and usually it's not even cheap. We've been very happy with Wowza, and it's very, very cost effective when you consider what it's doing. And the pay structures are all different on each service. Usually you pay monthly in some rate, but then you also pay sort of per, not necessarily per viewer, but based on the amount of bandwidth, some sort of metered, payment system for that. And again, they're all different and charge you in different ways. But we before we used Wowza, we used a service. What was it? Brightcove.
Yes, it was Brightcove. Yes,
who does a magnificent job. It's the exact same thing. They're a cloud-based service that takes your stream and transcodes it out. Do a fantastic job, and it looks wonderful. Hugely expensive, just astronomically expensive when you compare it to Wowza. So we made the switch to Wowza and have been very happy. We can also do our own Wowza server, and we do run that actually in the same data center where we have our Flash Media server. The advantages there are it will transcode. So if you're just pushing to a Flash Media server, which all of that stuff's free, that's all free software from Adobe, but it doesn't transcode. It's going to deliver the same stream to every device that asks for it. Whereas Wowza, either cloud-based or on your own server, will do that transcoding. And like I said, if you're going to be doing the Wowza hosting and your box is doing the transcoding, you have a lot to think about there. The processing power, the bandwidth available. It's a tricky thing to get into. And we learned a lot of these lessons the hard way, and kind of had to make adjustments as we went. But it's also very interesting, and has been, of course, a revenue generator for us. We wouldn't do it otherwise. But yeah, it's been interesting to learn about and do more with and do better. I mean, I think it's safe to tell everyone when we started this, we weren't great at it, and
Sure.
we've learned a lot and figured it out. It's more difficult than audio streaming. It's more difficult. It's much higher bandwidth, much higher bit rate. Yeah, there's more to think about.
I think there's one other component that really applies to all of these things, and then we can wrap up this streaming discussion, which is bandwidth that you just mentioned. That's at all of your locations where you're going to be doing the encoding to push the streams out. That's really the core factor that will make or break your streams. Is the quality. It's not necessarily the quantity. It's the quality of your bandwidth. And we're talking about audio streaming. You don't need much.
No.
We're not talking about even megs, really. I mean, it's your audio streams. You don't need much. You just need consistent bandwidth that is always there, minimal latency that works well all the time. Video streaming, a little bit of a bigger pipe, a little bit more requirement, a little bit more stable.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why when a news organization goes on location somewhere. Now, okay, that's changing. Today they do a lot more IP based, but it used to be they rolled in with a giant satellite truck or some sort of RF mechanism to get back to their station. And well, there was reason for that because you needed that very, very consistent data stream, like you mentioned. And that was hard to get on IP. Even just a few years ago, it was hard to find that. Still is hard to find that some places today, but yeah, that's the most important thing. That very consistent, low jitter, no packet loss kind of data stream.
I think some good tips would include we're really very fortunate in our facilities in most cases that we have multiple internet connections that come into the building and are utilized for different things through our routing configuration. We have cheap, I would say, commercially available bandwidth, which is this is the quantity versus quality discussion again. This is the fast 100 meg down, 20 or more meg up cable connections that we pay $80 for or $70 for or whatever they are. And we have those that we use for all of our web browsing and our client computers connections and whatever. Then we have much more expensive internet that's part of our MPLS network that all of our sites are connected through, that is guaranteed bandwidth. It's whatever we have, 20 by 20 or whatever the number is in these certain markets, but it's always going to be 20 by 20 and it's always going to be robust and it's always going to be there. And so we've actually routed in most of our offices our web streaming traffic to utilize the less quantity but higher quality MPLS network connections. If you don't have those, and a lot of people don't have those types of internet connections in their facilities, good rules of thumb that we've lived by in the past, we used to have separate internet connections for our streaming devices, whether that would be a dedicated DSL connection from your telephone provider, which is undoubtedly better than our telephone providers in the state that we're in. But you can get dedicated and you just say, I'm going to get this one DSL connection and I'm going to put all my streamers on it, and that's all that connection is going to get used for. You do the same thing with cable. You can do the same thing. I guess you could consider it a good practice if you want to. Kind of a poor man's QoS configuration would be get a separate internet pipe for your streams.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
You're not going to break it in your own building by any other traffic that way.
Let's do a very quick layman's lesson on internet service. Many of you won't care about this, but some of you might. I think people get confused when they look at prices for what we'll call residential internet service versus business class internet service. And then we'll even take it a step beyond that in a second. But residential internet service, okay, so that's what you're going to get when you call AT&T, Verizon, Frontier, or your cable company, Time Warner, Cox, Charter, whoever the case may be. And you're going to say, okay, I just moved into this house. I want the fastest internet you have. And they'll say, oh, no problem. We have 50 by 5 or we have 100 by 20 and it's $60 a month. Okay. Mm-hmm. And you go, great. And that's wonderful. Well, then maybe you're a business owner and you have a small business and you say, I need internet at my business just like I have at my house. And I say, oh, no problem. We can give you 50 by 5 or we can give you 100 by 20 for $250 a month.
Right.
And you go, what? It's $60 at home. Well, there is a reason for that. The internet connection that you have at your house is absolutely not guaranteed, and it is not protected in any way. What do I mean by that? When you have, let's say there's 40 people that live on your street, and they all have, Charter internet service. If all 40 of them go home at the same time and fire up Netflix, your available bandwidth is going to get flushed down the toilet instantly, because the pop that's serving that street only has a certain amount of bandwidth, and you share it among all your neighbors, all the friends around you. When you go up to business class internet service, that is now somewhat protected. When they say we're going to give you 100 by 20, they are guaranteeing that when you fire up some application that needs bandwidth, you're going to have 100 megs down and 20 megs up available to use, regardless what the people around you are doing. So there's a cost there. Now, they're also gouging you a little bit just because you're a business, and that's how it works. That's capitalism. What can I say? But there is a reason why you're paying more for that business class connection. So if you want to do streaming and you want to do it well, yeah, you need that business class connection. You need that enterprise grade internet that is protected. You're always going to have that bandwidth. And, when Miss Jane down the street wants to watch her stories on Netflix, it's not going to hurt the bandwidth you get at your station.
Right. Exactly.
Thank you for listening.
Yes, that's very, very good. All very good stuff. I found certain business class internet connections that like we've paid for historically, or that you and I have paid for at our facilities.
Correct.
Well, when they say, here's this piece of fiber and it's going to be turned up and you're going to have 100 megs by 100 megs, I found that to be pretty accurate. What do you think, Alex?
That is 120% accurate, in fact. Solid as a rock.
Solid as a rock.
And isn't that night? If you have fiber available to you, holy cow. It's not a gimmick either. Some companies use it as a gimmick, but it's not a gimmick. If you have reliable fiber internet service, do everything you can to get it. It's phenomenal.
Exactly. All right, so that's pretty much about all I think we can do on streaming. We'll what we need to do now is kind of reconvene here in a week. When this releases, we should have had our I'm so excited about these tower anchor rod inspections, which are coming up. We were going to document the poop out of this thing. Can I say that? I don't know. But it's going to be really pretty cool. I think this technology, I think, is pretty awesome if it works the way it's kind of intended to. And so I think we'll shoot that a lot, and we'll put together a couple of videos on our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search for the Radio Tech Guys and subscribe to that, so that you can be notified when we post those. Because I think they're going to be pretty. I think they're going to be pretty cool stuff. Yep. That'll be kind of the first big step here in this tower project. We're going to document all the way through the installation of our new, still sitting in the warehouse, 6-bay rototiller antenna from ERI, as well as new transmission line and a translator for one of our AMs. It's got a big 6-bay crazy directional. It's going to be a heck of a project, so come along for that.
Over the next few months, you're going to feel like you live at this particular transmitter site. Yeah. You're going to see a lot of it.
Yep. We're doing a lot of that. Also, in the month of March, which is here again by the time you're watching this or listening to this.
That's true.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? We'll be doing some on-site podcasts that we're going to record from a couple basketball tournaments. We'll be doing radio and television production for. We tried a behind-the-scenes thing a couple times and we really messed those up. It just they weren't very good. No. So I think we should try to maybe do a couple serious ones of those to kind of show some of the big time for us, really for anybody, I think for high school and Division II college, pretty big time tournament production coverage that we'll be doing over the course of the next few weeks. And so come along for that. We'll have some content for that as well.
Absolutely.
All right. I think that's a wrap.
It's been so nice talking to you all. I hope you've enjoyed the dulcet tones of our voices.
Yep. Check it out again next week, and we'll talk to you then.
Bye, folks.
See you later.